Hi and welcome back to the Bookstore Everywhere. So today I am here with another video and we are going to be looking at my autumn TBR. If you've watched any of my videos recently, you will probably have gathered that I'm very excited for autumn. I feel like I am already in it, especially today. It's kind of cooler and I'm wearing tights and a jumper. So I thought it would be the perfect time to do my full TBR. I wasn't really going to do this, but because I set TBRs every month, but I do have an idea of what I want to read this season, and I thought I would just talk through that with you. Obviously, I don't know, I don't think I'm going to manage to read all of these. These are just kind of loose ideas for the rest of the year and stuff I would like to read in the autumnal period, but I think these are ideas that I'm going to have in my head and then try and fit onto TBRs. I'm thinking about trying to fit on my October and November TBRs, so I thought I would take you through this today and just tell you what I want to be reading. There is a lot here, so as I said, I'm not expecting to really finish all of this year, but that is kind of the goal, and I definitely think I will read most of these books. So I'm going to section this out into series I want to finish and books that I just want to read in the period that are standalones or a series I haven't actually started yet, and things like that, so I will do those a second. So to start with, I am going to take you through the series that I actually want to finish this fall. There is a few series I want to finish by the end of the year, and me and Alex want to buddy read by the end of the year because one of us or both of us has started the series and not finished it, so I'm going to take you through those first. So the first one is The Bone Witch by Rincha Pecco, and this one I did read the first book, which is The Bone Witch, in November last year, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't carry on with the series because by the time I actually managed to get copies of the next two books, I had forgotten stuff that had happened in the first one and never wanted to reread it. This one is definitely perfect for kind of misty autumn winter mornings. I remember taking a photo of this one while I was reading it on a really foggy morning, and I felt like it just fit perfectly. And this one follows Taya, who is a necromancer, and it's very interesting. The writing is very kind of literary, and Courtney has warned me that the series gets a little bit more high fantasy and political as we go on. And in this one we follow her telling her story to somebody and telling her story kind of in present day, so you are there right in the action, and it is very interesting. I liked this a lot. I gave it 4 stars, and I just didn't carry on with the series, but it is an absolutely beautiful book, and I do definitely want to reread this one and then carry on with the other two. So I won't be telling you too much about these books, as you probably gathered, but I will give you a little bit of a summary about each one. So the next one that me and Alex both want to finish is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. I definitely want to read this more and more, especially as I'm reading Defy the Night at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it, and that is Bridget Kemmerer's newest release. So I have read the first book a couple of years ago now, and I've just never continued with the series because I think this was the only book that was out at the time, and I've waited for the entire trilogy to be released. I think Alex has done the same, or she's read this one and the second book. I think she's only read the first book, so we would like to reread this one before we carry on with the series. And this is a modern day fantasy that is set in Washington DC, but it is also set in Emberfall, which is this fantasy world as well. And this one follows the Prince of Emberfall. So it also follows Harper, who is from Washington DC and is kind of thrown into Prince Ren's world, who has been stuck living the autumn of his 18th year over and over again. The fact that he's stuck in autumn obviously feels like this is even more perfect than I remember it being. I really liked this book when I read it before, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series. I am very aware that there is a couple of these books that I definitely put on another seasonal TBR earlier in the year, which I think was spring, and I still haven't got to them, but you know, we're just going to ignore that. But this one I definitely remember putting on there, and that is The Conference of the Birds and The Desolations of Devil's Acre, both by Ransom Riggs. These are the 5th and 6th books in the Miss Peregrine series, and I think that is the series done now. As far as I'm aware, there's not going to be any more of these. This is one I weirdly haven't taken the sticker off. off of at the moment, and I've had this for a while, and I don't usually leave stickers on books, but that's a bit weird for me. But yeah, this is the last book in the series. It is quite a hefty one, and this one is the 5th book. So I have read up until this point. I read the original trilogy quite a while ago, and then I read A Map of Days roughly around the time that it came out, and I just never continued with this one. I don't want to reread the rest of the series before reading this, so I think what I'm going to do is just find a bit of a wrap up for the original trilogy and A Map of Days, and then delve into this one. But the original one follows Jacob, who is from America, and he ends up travelling to this remote Welsh island, which you already have me there. I love Wales. Remote Welsh island is amazing. And there he finds out something that his grandpa has been hiding from him his entire life, and that is that there is this weird kind of time loop thing that's on the island, and Jacob begins to explore and find out about his grandpa's secrets and the people that his grandpa knew. I won't say much because I don't want to spoil it any more than that. I'm not sure what is actually in the synopsis, but the story kind of goes on from there and escalates until they are all over the world basically, and I am excited to see where this story goes, but I definitely didn't enjoy A Map of Days as much as I did the original trilogy, so I feel like that's why I'm procrastinating on reading these two. But the spooky feels of this definitely feels like a perfect one to read in autumn. And then we have another series, and that is The Last Nansara by Kristen Cicerelli, and it has been a couple of years since I read the first one, and I finally picked up the second and third books. I did enjoy this one when I read it in 2019, and I definitely did want to carry on with the series. I think this is one that Alex has read the first 2 books of, but hasn't read the third one, so we're going to buddy read the first one and the whole series together, so we'll be rereading and reading the last one definitely for the first time, and I honestly have no idea what this one is about, even though I just read it 2 years ago, but I do remember that there is dragons. So basically, to summarise this in a few words, this follows Asha, who is a dragon slayer, and she is being forced into a marriage to try and unite the fractured kingdom that she lives in, and then the king offers her a way out of this marriage, her freedom in exchange for the heart of the head of the most powerful dragon. And the only person standing in her way is a defiant slave boy. And then the story goes on from there. As I said, I don't really remember much about this book at all. It's only been a few years since I read it, but I don't remember a lot about it. But I do remember enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing where the series goes. And the last series that I would like to finish by the end of the year or in the autumn period is Serpent and Dove by Shelby McEwen, and the last book in this trilogy is actually out now, which is why I really want to finish this series. I read Serpent and Dove for the first time last year and I absolutely loved it so much, which is partly why I want to reread it. I feel like this is one that I could maybe get away with reading a summary of or just going into the second book. My original plan for this was to read Blood and Honey in kind of March time and then read Gods and Monsters when it came out in August. That didn't happen. I still haven't got my copy of Gods and Monsters because I have the Fahrenheit edition pre-ordered and it's about to be shipped at the moment. So I definitely know that I'm going to have it soon, and I just want to reread this because I loved it so much. I would love to be back in this world, even though it is quite chunky. I got through it quite quickly, and this one follows 2 characters, Louise and Reed, and Louise is actually a witch and she has fled her coven and taken shelter in the city of Caesarean, forsaking all magic and living on whatever she could steal. So there, witches like Lou are hunted, and Reed, who is the other character, is a witch hunter and has lived all of his life that on one principle, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. So his path was never meant to cross with Louise's, but their paths do cross and they are actually forced to marry. So this is like an enemies to lovers romance, but it has witches. It is absolutely beautiful. The setting is amazing. I absolutely love the location of this book. It is my favourite thing, and I'm very excited to reread these. I'm hoping to buddy read these with Alex as well, as she has never read them and does want to read them this year. So we are planning on doing that at some point whenever we can get the time. So those are all the series I want to finish this autumn. Now I'm going to go on to books I just want to read because I want to read them in autumn. The first two are actually books that I'm borrowing from my boyfriend, and the first one of those is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. There is a reason that I want to read most of these books, whether it's just because I feel like they'll fit autumn. Most of them are because I feel like they'll fit autumn, but this one especially is because me and Mark are meant to be seeing the stage play of this at the end of October. This was meant to happen last year but has been pushed back to this year, and I would like to read the book before we see the play. I actually bought Mark this edition last year for Christmas Eve, and this is the illustrated edition, which is the edition that I wanted to read, and it is absolutely beautiful. This will be my first Neil Gaiman book. I don't know much about it, and I actually don't really want to know much about it, so I'm not going to say anything or read the synopsis, but I am very excited to finally be reading a Neil Gaiman book, and we will see how this goes. And the other one I want to read is On a Night Like This by Lindsay Kelk. My boyfriend Mark is a big fan of Lindsay Kelk's writing, so when I got the opportunity to grab a proof copy of this book, I went for it, and I decided that this is going to be my first Lindsay Kelk book. This one comes out in November. I can't remember the exact date that it comes out, but I know it's the 11th of November. It's coming out in hardback, and I was very kindly sent a proof, so thank you so much to, I think this is Harper, yeah, thank you so much to Harper for sending me this book. And I don't know much about this one, but I know it is a romance because that is kind of what Lindsay Kelk writes. So this one follows Fran Cooper, who accepts a mysterious job to be a PA to a secret celebrity, and then she is swept off her feet. She is working with the global superstar Juliet, and she is charged with getting Juliet to the Crystal Ball, the glittering event where the world's rich and famous gather on a beautiful Mediterranean island. What Fran doesn't know is that on this one night everything will change for her too. It might just be the most unforgettable night of her life. Very excited to be swept away by this. I feel like it's going to be a nice easy read and hopefully a break from a lot of fantasy if I end up reading a lot of fantasy, and I would like to read this before its release date in November, so hopefully I can read it in October or early November. And then we have The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. This one is one that was suggested to me by Mark, and I don't know too much about this one other than it follows Arthur, who is a junior solicitor and attends the funeral of Alice and attends the funeral of Alice Drablow, who was the sole inhabitant of Eelmarsh House. The house stands at the end of a causeway, wreathed in fog and mystery, but it is not until he glimpses a wasted young woman dressed in all black at the funeral that a creeping sense of unease begins to take hold, a feeling deepened by the reluctance of the locals to talk to the woman in black and her terrible purpose. And Mark said this is one of the only books that has actually put fear into him, and I've heard a lot about the movie as well doing the same thing. So this one's going to be a proper horror for me, but I'm going to try and read this in October. It is also very short, so exactly 200 pages this copy, and I'm looking forward to reading it. And then we have a couple of Jane Austen books, which I'm not going to go into too much, but these are the 3 Jane Austen books that I am yet to read, as I have read Persuasion, Sense and Sensibility, and I'm currently reading Northanger Abbey. I am trying to make my way through most of these books in autumn, and these are the ones that I have left currently. I know I'm going to read Emma in October and Pride and Prejudice in November with Alex, but I also want to read Mansfield Park to complete my collection. And then the next book I want to read is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. This is one that me and Amy want to buddy read at some point, hopefully in October, but we shall see when it happens. So this one follows Naomi, who is a glamorous socialite, and she ends up going to the rescue of her cousin, who is newly wed and is begging to be rescued from a mysterious doom. So she heads to the High Palace, which is an estate in the mountains of Mexico, which is owned by the secluded Doyle family, and I think that is the person that her cousin is going to marry. The fortunes of the silver mining Doyles have eroded, and their house is a dilapidated relic. Even more worrisome are the inhabitants of the high place. There's the alluring yet menacing new husband, his foreboding father, and the other relatives. Soon the house itself begins evading Naomi's dreams with visions of blood and doom. She must tread carefully, for there are many secrets behind the walls of High Place, and she may soon find it impossible to leave this enigmatic place behind. So this one sounds kind of spooky, kind of creepy, and I am looking forward to reading it, and me and Amy are going to try and buddy read it. So I then actually have a couple of proof copies that I have yet to get to but have been released for a while now. The first one being The Once and Future Witches by Alexey Harrow, and we also have 10,000 Doors of January, also by Alexey Harrow. This one was one that was sent to Amy a long time ago, and she actually passed this one on to me because I do want to read it, and I requested this one and got this one last year. And this is one of those books that I knew that when I got it. I think I got this in November if I'm remembering rightly, and it just felt a little bit too late and I just didn't get around to it, and I knew I would have to wait because I wanted to read this in autumn. And I don't know too much about this, so let's find out together. Apparently this one says it's set in 1893 where witches don't exist. They used to in the wild dark days before the burnings began, but now witching is nothing but tidy charms and nursery rhymes. If the modern woman wants any measure of power, she must find it in the ballot box. But when the three Eastwood sisters join the suffragists of New Salem, they pursue the forgotten ways which might turn the women's movement into the witches' movement. So this is very exciting. It's actually not as thick as it looks. It also says it's perfect for readers of the Night Circus, so hopefully I'm going to love this one as well. And we also have the 10,000 Doors of January, which is also by Alexey Harrow, but it has been out for a few years now. And this one is the absolutely beautiful proof copy. As I said, this one was gifted to me by Amy, so thank you, Amy. This one came out in 2019 and again says it's perfect for fans of the Night Circus, which I absolutely love. And this one says it follows January Scaler, who is living in a sprawling mansion that is filled with exotic treasures, and she's a curiosity herself. And then she finds a strange book, a book that carries the scent of other worlds and tells a tale of secret doors and danger, of love and adventure. With each page she reads, January learns the impossible truth about the world and discovers a story increasingly entwined with her own. This one sounds really interesting, really fantastical and magical, and I can't wait to read it. We are in the home stretch. We have about 5 or 6 books to go, so let's dive in. Next we have The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant. This is one I picked up last year and I've yet to read it, but I have 3 editions of it. This is the beautiful Illumicrate edition. I also have the Waterstones edition and the Goldsboro edition. So I definitely need to get to this one, and this is why it's on my autumn TBR, as well as thinking this one will be perfect for the autumn season. I think I need to read this before the second book comes out because I need to find out whether I love it, and I want to buy as many editions of the second book as I have of the first one. But we will see. I don't know too much about this one because it has been a while since I picked this one up, but it says it's set in 1828 and the citizens of Paris still mourn in the wake of their failed revolution. Among them, in the dark alleys and crumbling cathedrals of the city, the most wretched have gathered into guilds of thieves, assassins, and worse. Together they are known as the Court of Miracles. Eponine has lost more than most. When her father, Thénardier, I think, sells her sister to the Guild of Flesh, she makes a promise to do anything she can to get her sister back, even if it means joining the Court of Miracles, the very people keeping her sister a slave. She becomes perhaps the greatest thief the court has ever known, finding a place among them and gaining another sister, Cosette. But she has never forgotten the promise she made, and if she's to have any hope of saving one sister, she will have to betray the other. So I do want to read this. I have a feeling I might love it, but I've also heard really mixed things about this book, so I am a little hesitant to read it, but I know I need to. And the next one I want to read is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, especially because I just picked up this beautiful edition in hardback and it also has an audiobook on Scribd. So I'll probably be reading and listening to this one when I finally get around to reading it. I've wanted to read this one ever since it came out, and then I saw this hardback copy for the first time and couldn't resist picking it up. And I don't know too much about this, but I think the main character can summon ghosts, and the main character Yadriel summons a ghost and now he can't get rid of him. So I know this book also talks about gender a lot and is following somebody whose family who's having trouble accepting his gender. So I think that's really interesting and I can't wait to read it. I have not heard a bad word about this book. I have heard so many good things. So I'm very excited to read this. As I said, I don't know too much about it, but I know that this the main character Yadriel has summoned a ghost who is Julian Diaz, who is the school's resident bad boy, and Julian is not about to go quietly into death. He's determined to find out what happens and tie up some loose ends before he leaves. I'm presuming what happened with his death. So this is one I've wanted to read since it came out. I'm so glad to finally have a copy, and hopefully I can pick it up soon. Next we have a book that I'm going to be reading very, very soon, and that is The Secret of Birds and Bone by Kieran Hargreaves. I don't know much about it, but I feel like Kieran Hargreaves is one of those authors that is perfect to read in autumn. I read The Deathless Girls for the first time last year and absolutely loved it. But this one says it's about Sylvia, who lives outside the city of Siena with her mama, little brother Ermin, and their pet crow, Corvith. Her mother is a bone binder, famous for her keepsakes and charms. But ever since an unexpected visit from a silver-veiled stranger, Mama has not been herself. She no longer takes pleasure in her work, nor will she let Sophia help. When Mama is arrested on Sophia's birthday, the children are taken to the city orphanage. It's there that Sophia decides she's no longer a helpless child. Clutching her Mama's gift, an intricate bone locket, she sets out to unravel the secrets that bind her family to Siena itself. Its catacombs and towers, its birds and rivers, its rulers and people, a journey to darkness, danger, destiny and hope. Not only has that intrigued me a lot, it's also reminded me that I am missing a book off this TBR. So that is the one we're going to talk about next. So in some ways that synopsis also reminded me of City of Ghosts, which is another book I definitely need to add to this TBR for a specific reason. So I did actually read this book a couple of years ago and I really, really enjoyed it, but this one follows Cass, who can pull back the veil and see ghosts, and she also has a ghost best friend. But interestingly, her parents work on this paranormal program, like a TV program, where they try and connect with the dead. So it's a very interesting plot, and this one takes place in Edinburgh, I think. So they head off to Edinburgh, and Cass basically spends the story exploring the graveyards, castles and secret passageways that teem with restless phantoms. Then she meets a girl who shares her gift, and she realises how much she still has to learn about the Veil and herself, and she'll have to learn fast. The City of Ghosts is more dangerous than she ever imagined. Very excited to reread this one, as I really enjoyed it the first time, and I can't wait to carry on with the series. So we have 3 books left, and the next one is The Mercies, which is also by Kieran Hargreaves, and I don't know much about this one, but I do know it's a historical fiction, and I think this is one we are planning to read in the book club that I'm part of. Just with me and a few friends, we have kind of a relaxed book club, and this is one that we're hoping to read in October. So I'm very excited to finally read this. I've had the hardback for a while and I couldn't resist picking up this paperback because it is absolutely beautiful and I love the sprayed edges. But this one follows Maren, and I think it also follows kind of an entire village that is in Norway on a remote Norwegian island in 1617, where the village is thrown into a storm, a vicious storm, and they lose all of the men of the village when they're out fishing. And then it follows a man who kind of comes to the village 18 months later from Scotland, I believe. So this person has been summoned to this village to bring the women of the island to heal, and with him travels his young wife Ursa. In her new home and in Maren, Ursa encounters something she has never seen before, an independent woman. But where Ursa finds happiness and even love, her husband can only find evil, and he must root it out at all costs. This one sounds very interesting. I've actually heard more about this today, as Peru's Project is currently reading it, and I was watching her full TBR earlier, which inspired me to film this one, and it sounds really interesting, and it definitely told me a little bit more about the book before I go into it, but I'm looking forward to buddy reading this one. So then we have Vampires Never Get Old, an anthology collection that includes a short story by V. Schwab that is actually being turned into a Netflix show. So I wanted to read this fairly soon, and I definitely think I should be reading it around Halloween. And there's some interesting authors I'm very excited to read more from, and some authors I've not heard of before, but they all follow different vampires, and I'm very excited to read this one. And the story by V. Schwab is called First Kill, and that's being turned into a Netflix show, so I want to read this one before I see the show. And finally, we have the last books on my TBR for autumn, and that is the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels, which I actually don't have the first one right now, but I do have the Tea Dragon Festival and the Tea Dragon Tapestry, which, as you can see, looks incredibly autumnal. So I do actually want to read this one specifically in autumn, but obviously I have not read the others, so I do want to read the others before reading that one in autumn. But I don't have the read Tea Dragon Society right now, which is the first one, as I'm waiting for it to arrive in the post. So I thought I would talk about this one. However, I can't say much about them because I don't have the first one and I don't want to read the synopsis of this one to spoil myself, but all I know is this one follows tea dragons. They are graphic novels. The art in these are absolutely beautiful. I just love the end papers, the front pages, the artwork inside, the colours, the drawing. It's absolutely beautiful. I am very, very excited to read these. I've heard very good things about them. They are meant to be similar to Mooncakes, which is one of my favourite books of the year, so I'm very excited to finally pick these up. And I think Books Nest included this in a book that would be great for a transition from summer to fall, so I definitely want to pick these up soon. So if you have stuck through this video, 1, well done, and 2, a massive thank you for getting through this entire video, as I know there has been a lot of books that I wanted to talk about and I have rambled a lot about all of them, but thank you so much if you did. If you did, I hope you did enjoy this video, and please give it a like and comment down below if you did enjoy this video. Let me know what you're reading in autumn or what you're planning to read in autumn, and I will see you next time in another video. Bye!